All right, welcome back to Main Street Living. Ladies, I know May is the month when we all start doing a few more activities outside, especially as the weather warms up. Is that right, Cheryl?
Absolutely. And May is a great time for Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And here with all kinds of information about Lyme disease and how to prevent it is author and communications director of LymeDisease.org, Dorothy Leland. Welcome to Main Street Living. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we've all heard of Lyme disease. I get very paranoid about it. In fact, when I pull ticks off myself, I will actually mail them in to places where you can get them tested for Lyme disease. That's how paranoid I get about this. And
prepared, Cheryl, prepared.
Yeah, prepare with share. That's what I do. But if Lyme disease has not touched us personally, we probably don't know much about it. So break it down for us. What exactly is Lyme disease?
Well, basically, it is a bacterial infection that is transmitted by ticks. And you're talking about being outside. That's where ticks are, is outside. And so that is something that you want to avoid having contact with. You discussed being paranoid. I think a little bit of paranoia is warranted here. Not too much paranoia. There's things you can do to protect yourself, and but a little bit of paranoia is okay. So basically, Lyme disease, if it's not caught early and treated adequately, can lead to all kinds of problems, all kinds of physical problems. It starts out with sort of flu-like symptoms, and it can lead on to many, many things: heart problems, brain problems, joint problems, gastrointestinal problems. It can it can cause intense pain. It can cause intense fatigue, and it can last a long time for people. And it's one of those things. Better, immediately figure out that you have it. Well, the best thing is avoid it. If you can't avoid it, figure out that you have it, get properly treated, and you're going to be in a much better situation.
So we've been hearing more about Lyme disease this past year, obviously, because some of the symptoms overlap with COVID-19. What are some of the similarities?
Well, basically, preliminary symptoms of the two are can be very similar. Fever, chills, fatigue, aches and pains, generally feeling like you have the flu. And so I get contacted by a lot of patients, and one person that contacted me said that he'd had these kinds of symptoms. He'd gone to his doctor. They said, "Oh, maybe you've got COVID." They tested him. No, don't have COVID. Went home. He was still sick a week later. Oh, let's test you for COVID again. He got tested for COVID 3 times until somebody said, "No, maybe it's something else." And it turns out that he had Lyme disease. But what happened was that delayed his getting treatment. And so if you don't want, yes, in the time of the pandemic, you start, I know if I even sneeze, I think, oh my God, do I have COVID? And it's like, well, allergies.
Right.
But so it's not, it's not an unreasonable thing to think when you have those circumstances, but it's important to look further and to see if it's Lyme disease.
It's important to be your own advocate, right, as a patient, especially. But I know what you mean. If I cough in the grocery store, I'm like, it's allergies, I swear.
Yeah, it's so important to know that. And sometimes you might not even see the tick on you. I mean, they could be in weird places on your body that you never see and you never know they have, and then they fall off. But sometimes you do see them. And I've heard something about the telltale rash that might appear. Is that something that people should be looking out for?
Well, definitely should be looking out for it, but it's important to know that not everybody gets a rash.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So there are people that otherwise, definitively, had Lyme disease, but they were never aware of a rash. And so it could be that it's on your scalp underneath your hair and you didn't see it. It could be in the middle of your back and you didn't see it, or it could be that you didn't have it. So it's, yes, that's a sign that if somebody if you have one, they often call it the bullseye rash.
Right.
But it's important because sometimes it looks like a bullseye. But if you discount something that doesn't look exactly like a Target logo, you're going to maybe miss it. And in fact, there was a study that just came out recently that was saying about the rashes that most of them don't look like a bullseye. Most of them are just round and red. And so there are different, and there can be different colors. Some of them are more pinky, some of them are more orange. And of course, on people with the darker skin, the rash might not be noticeable or might look very different.
Wow. And I know too, there are different types of ticks, and some are more prone to cause Lyme disease than others. And this is why whenever I get one, I mail it in and I pay the money to get it tested and find out what type of tick it is, because it really gives me that peace of mind. But what types of ticks cause Lyme disease?
Well, basically, it's in what's called Ixodes ticks, and they are in much of the country. It's Ixodes scapularis. On the West Coast, it's called Ixodes pacificus. But there are other ticks that can carry other stuff that you don't want to have either. So it's important. It's really a good idea to just avoid ticks entirely. And because there's something ticks can carry multiple pathogens, diseases. And so you can get one tick bite that could give you Lyme and something called Babesia, for instance. And there are other, and those have to be treated differently. They're separate diseases and require different kinds of treatment. And so sometimes, if you just get treated for Lyme, that doesn't solve your problem. So you really, there's lots of stuff. There's something like 900 different kinds of ticks in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Most of them are, they're not all in the United States, and most of them don't even bite humans, but enough of them do bite humans that you don't want anything to do with them.
No, they're creepy.
So I know we mentioned that you can find them outdoors. Where specifically outdoors? Because we can't just not go outside at all. And how do we protect ourselves and our families?
Okay. Well, they've traditionally said, scientists have traditionally said, they're in long grass, they're in the woods, which is true. Depending on where you live, they could be in your backyard. I live in California. There was a big study that was just put out in the last week or so where they did a lot of testing at Northern California beaches and found them in the grass like immediately adjacent to the beach.
No.
Southern California doesn't tend to have grass immediately adjacent to the beach, but Northern California has a lot of that. So the grass and scrub, what's called coastal chaparral, that they did a lot of testing around there. And so, and they found a high infection rate. They found Lyme infected ticks in, beaches that I have often gone to with my family. And, so there it's out there. In terms of protecting yourself, I always say that the most important thing is for you to recognize that this is a situation that's worthy of your attention, so that you should, like you're thinking about it, that you should be aware of the possibility of ticks. In general, you don't, if you can take the path instead of going through, across a grassy field without the path, that would be a good choice to take. A lot of people work outdoors. And so, they're, maintenance workers or park rangers or, landscape surveyors, and they can't just say, oh, I'm not going to go across the grass. Right. And so there are things that you can do to protect yourself. And you can get clothing that is treated. First of all, you want to cover up as much as possible, which is a hard sell in the summertime when it's hot. But you cover up as much as possible with clothing. Your clothing can be protected with something called permethrin. You can spray it and it will last 5 washes. You can get it pre-treated. There's a company you can send it into, and they will treat your clothing. I do this for a hiking outfit, and it'll last 70 washes.
Oh my
and
God.
Basically, so if I were an outdoor worker, I would have that done for my, if I had a uniform or something, I would definitely do that. You can get it at hiking stores. You can spray your boots. It's really highly recommended. Your feet is one of the places that ticks are likely to get their entry to you, and then they go up. So studies have shown that people that treat their footwear with permethrin have, and then walk through a tick area. I would not be one of the people that tested that.
No, exactly.
But anyway, that it works well.
I mean, this stuff is all so great, and we are about out of time. I mean, we could talk to you all day about all of this, and I've had ticks on the back of my knee before that I flew on a plane with, didn't even know I had. So they can definitely get in some places and hang out for a while. So I always recommend doing a tick check when you come in from being outside too. Where can our viewers go for more information?
Our website, LymeDisease.org, has a lot of information about protecting yourself and about symptoms. We have a symptom checker. If you want to find out, kind of match what you're feeling with what's the possibility out there, and just a lot of other information. So I recommend that.
Great stuff. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you.
All right, stick with us. Coming up next, we have lions, we have tigers, and we have lanterns. You don't want to miss it.